shocking. It's complete hypocrisy.
Now, Bruce, do you think this will be a tainted title then?
What was that? Sorry, I missed that. My ear for the earphone.
Selective hearing, that was.
Do you think this now turns us into a tainted title?
Not at all. It's not going to be an ask list anyway.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sports Hut podcast. In a week that's brought us criticism, controversy, consolidation and self-isolation, and that's just the Rangers camp this week. Having a look at Rangers, we heard earlier on the week that the Ibrox 5 were punished for breaching COVID rules. James, what's your thoughts on the matter?
Well, the Rangers manager earlier in the week stated he wanted consistency from the SFA when it came to disciplinary matters. And then, when the SFA gave Rangers a different form of disciplinary action, a more lenient form of disciplinary action for breaking COVID rules, he is somehow delighted. Why is your manager being a hypocrite, Bruce?
I think what you'll find is that within the club, Rangers are taking the sternest approach against the players.
So the players who were in close contact with the players who went to the party, they should be self-isolating. That's the rules. That's not a stern approach.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the club. I'm not a club representative.
I know, but you're a fan and you're defending them. So answer the question.
Indeed,
if it's stern, they're self-isolating.
The 5 players who were in their sports bubble, at the end of the day, breaking rules, have been rightly disciplined for that. They've been fined.
But Patterson was on the bench, so he was within the team's bubble. So the team should be isolating. But
again,
the SFA allowed them to go to Belgium and represent the country.
Well, Patterson, was Patterson in Belgium?
No, but the team should be isolating because they were in close contact with somebody who broke the COVID rules. That's how the business works.
Right. Totally agree with James. At the end of the day, guys broke the rules. It's not about having it or not having it. It's having the possibility of having it. So he's now got the possibility of having it because he's in a group in a party that he's decided to go to. Then he comes in, sits on the bench, sits in the changing room with all the first team players. The first team players then go to Belgium. It can't happen. That's not what Sturgeon put out to be the rules. And at the end of the day, it's not just bad for Rangers, because Rangers have spent weeks and weeks complaining about Celtic and Celtic not following the COVID rules. But it's bad for Scottish football because
I think you'll find Rangers haven't spent any time arguing. Rangers haven't spent any time mentioning Celtic because Rangers have been really, really quiet.
Whoa! I've never heard a Rangers player not say Celtic. Every conversation.
Rangers fans have been complaining about Celtic. Rangers have said nothing.
But they take it. When Celtic had ball and goalie break the rules, Celtic were forced to isolate for 2 weeks. When Aberdeen broke the rules, 8 of their players isolate for 2 weeks. They had 2 games postponed. Yet Rangers are allowed to go to Belgium and represent Scotland. Where's the consistency? I'm asking the question that Stephen Gerrard asked.
What I find funny, James, is if the shoe was on the other foot, okay, it would be the exact same situation switched.
Well, Celtic had 2 games postponed. Celtic had 2 games postponed, so it wasn't the same. So where's the consistency?
If the shoe was on the other foot, and I was sitting where you are, saying why wasn't this done, why wasn't that done? That's the nature of the old firm. That's the nature of a rivalry. Is that as soon as the other club there's a little minor fault, it's a big fault because it's a national pandemic, but a global pandemic. But as soon as there's a fault, the fans and everything just jump on it.
But then Celtic had 2 games postponed. You're not answering the question. So Celtic did get treated differently. So why are Rangers not getting treated the same?
Celtic also
why don't you ask the
players.
So, quick question, right? When did this full party occur, and then how many games or how many times was this guy on the bench for Rangers afterwards?
Once, then they got caught.
It only takes once to catch COVID.
No, I totally agree with that as well. Totally agree with that. I'm just checking because obviously I I have read up about on the story, but I wasn't sure as to the time frame and how much contact this Patterson had with other players and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So
The thing is, it's one of the issues where Rangers are responsible for their players, but there's not a lot Rangers could have done. They're responsible for the players. All they can do now is they can find the player and do something about it. Scottish government's no came out and done anything major, but it was an opportunity for the Scottish government to say, right, we've gave you a little bit of leeway and you've just fucked it up, and now it's a case of right, we'll just shut down football, and that's where the possibilities are going. It's not just for Rangers, it's for every other player and every other fan. So he hasn't just done this and ruined the reputation of Rangers, Darren. He's ruined the reputation of football players in general. All 5 of them.
well, that's what I was going to say. Like, personally, I don't think Rangers should have been punished.
Still should be. They're still represented.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I think Rangers had went the right way about it, like punishing, taking them out the squads and things like that, and taking them out of the club essentially for the time being, for the short term. But you can't put the kind of 5 naive boys, like the actions of 5 naive boys, to the full club. But then again, if they have been in contact with other players, first-team players, then they should all be isolated then.
Look, let's talk worst-case scenario, right? Worst-case scenario, one of those 5 players went to a party and caught COVID. Let's say Patterson, who happened to be on the bench for Rangers. He's within close contact with everybody sitting in the changing room. He's playing in the warm-up and everything else. It's quite easy to think with the new variant that could have transported to any one of those players. Then the other players went over to Belgium and took it to another country and infected a different team in a different country. That's the possibilities. I mean, it's not that far-fetched.
But do you reckon though, like if they've all, like, after finding out they've all had their tests and stuff and they've all came out negative, they've took that chance of went and played as a team, and obviously then
Celtic
not how it
did
works.
that after Bolingoli. Celtic did that after Bolingoli and got told to postpone 2 games to ensure the safety of the rest of the teams in Scottish football.
You've also got Celtic when they went to Dubai and came back. One player had it. The rest of the players within close contact were told to isolate, and then another player subsequently caught it from that first player that wasn't when the testing. You don't just because you've got a negative test, you've still got time for the symptoms to actually materialise and for you to get a positive test after that.
No, I totally agree with you. It's just more for like my thinking. Like I'm kind of giving like a kind of neutral view to this because obviously you've got a Celtic fan over there and a Rangers fan, and a fan of just Scottish football essentially. One
of the biggest problems was if a Rangers player was responsible for the league ending. Unfortunately, the SFA set a precedent last season on how the league ends. So the league would end in however the places where that team would win. But a Rangers player then be responsible for the league ending early, and it would ruin Celtic's extremely slim chances of stopping Rangers win the league. You'd then be thinking, right, that player's went out, caught COVID, or gave his team the opportunity to catch COVID. Then the leagues went and finished because of that, and Rangers have won the league. Could you see that happening? It was a possibility.
Null and void.
I genuinely don't think at the stage we are now with like the kind of vaccine rollouts and stuff, I don't see the league getting cancelled completely or finished or brought to an end. I don't see it happening.
You can't know because that just doesn't work. Yeah, the vaccine rollout, okay, it's rolled out to all those vulnerable. Football players aren't included.
I agree with that as well. I just don't think.
Ages, and it's still not been proven that the vaccines will stop catching it or transmit it. Transferring it, I'm going to go with that because I can't think of the word. So, like, the vaccine rollout's got nothing to do with it. Sturgeon said herself, if after Bolingoli and the 9 Aberdeen players, if it happens again, I will have to step in. And one thing I was going to say is, I generally think Rangers have got off so lightly. compared to Celtic and Aberdeen. Celtic and Aberdeen got
I'm
absolutely
not
hammered for
a
their
bitter fan.
So Bruce, do you think Bruce, do you think they've been let off lightly then?
Bruce, you always do try your best with the whole COVID rules. You're the first to argue that the rules are there for a reason.
Indeed. And I'm just trying to have a look to see. I can't remember exactly when was it. I can't remember off the top of my head. When was it Rangers announced that they were doing their internal investigation? Does anyone remember?
It must have been.
I'm trying to have a notice now. I'm thinking it was last week. I'm thinking it was last Sunday.
Whenever the party was, whenever the party was allegedly happened, it must have been the day, maybe 2 days after.
I'm thinking it was last Sunday, right? And I could be wrong. So Patterson sits on the bench on Saturday last week. Rangers announced on Sunday that they're doing an internal investigation. We take action once we find out, we identify who the 5 players are, we take action, we fine them. But, and you know, we've got a precedent, we've set a precedent because we've sorted out George Edmondson and Jordan Jones very well on loan, but after they brought disrespect to the club after breaching rules. The other 5, I don't see them coming anywhere near the changing room for the next wee while because Steven Gerrard's not a happy man. And again, if there is an issue with consistency, you know, you expect the higher powers of the sport to be on top of these things. So
your manager called out the higher authorities of the Scottish game for consistency. So why will he not call out the higher authorities just now, even if it's against his own club?
Because James, I don't know anybody who calls anybody out when they get given a wee, you know, as a wee lenient touch as it is. Do you know what I mean?
So
the
interest of Rangers before the interest of Scottish football.
Wait, never have I seen Neil Lennon come out and say, well, actually, do you know what? We actually got off lightly this week. A happy days, job done. Thanks very much. Never.
Not tonight, anyways. Got beat, didn't they?
Do you know what I mean?
1-0 defeat is only we got off lightly.
In terms of human nature, I have never seen anybody come out and admit
and
when they've got the upper hand of the deal.
I know what you're saying about
somebody can prove me wrong.
I know what you're saying about, like, in the interest of Scottish football and the league and shut down or finish whatever. I genuinely don't see that happening. Fair enough, the vaccine and that stuff has got nothing to do with the players aren't getting vaccines right now, but I genuinely don't see it happening. For how long it's gone on, I don't see it happening. When it should have been shot is when it didn't get shot, so I don't see it happening.
I think Gerrard's just got a way with words sometimes, because first he said, "Do not let this slip," and now this.
Yeah.
Well, but then again, obviously, they've gone. If they ended up isolating all the players that were involved around Patterson and in the changing room, then could Rangers have gone to Europe and got that result? That win.
Bruce, you're the Rangers fan. Would your B team say to you?
It was a difficult game to watch at times. No, I don't. I reckon. At one point, I struggled to see us coming away with a result anyway. So probably not.
But again, when it comes to European football, when there's only one team left, it is sometimes nice the country comes collectively behind them to support, get some coefficient points. But when they've broken COVID rules, some of the players, and your own team, and I'm saying this as a Celtic fan, got told to isolate because they've been in close contact with people who potentially broke the rules, as happened in the case with Bolingoli, Rangers should have been treated the exact same way.
Went away for a jolly.
The consistent game. Well, parties are jolly, and 5 of your players went for a wee jolly.
Yeah, five of them went, not a whole team plus injured players.
Well, Dubai's a different topic. I'm talking about Bolingoli. Dubai was totally wrong from Celtic. That shouldn't have happened. I was one of the first people to come out and say Celtic shouldn't have been in Dubai. But when it comes to Celtic and Bolingoli came back, had a test, tested negative. but the government stepped in and said, no, for the interest of Scottish football, you have to isolate. And yet when Rangers have people potentially having COVID close to the team, they're allowed to go to Belgium and represent the country in Scottish football. That is shocking. It's complete hypocrisy.
Now, Bruce, do you think this will be a tainted title now?
What was that? Sorry, I missed that. I need to put a brief on him.
Selective hearing, that was.
Do you think this now turns us into a tainted title?
Not at all. It's not going to be an ask list anyway, I can tell you that.
It'd be one.
It's going to be one.
And James, see when you said that the full kind of Scottish fans are kind of behind one team, that the only team left in Europe, I don't see that happening. I think majority of Celtic fans would be very happy to see Rangers get knocked out of Europe because Celtic aren't in it.
No, indeed.
Like, I'm not saying every single Celtic fan, because I think you're quite a kind of
110%.
Kind of country-based person, so you'd probably support Rangers kind of getting like one team into that kind of Europe or whatever.
So
but I reckon Celtic fans would be ecstatic if Rangers get knocked out of Europe.
Well, the question that I would
Shanahan,
ask is,
I do like you use the word if and not when. I do like that. If is indeed the topic, the title of the word we're using there. Do you know?
a World Cup final, England have made it to the semi-final. Scotland's not in it. Do you support England?
No.
There you
No,
go.
never.
So I think it's the same logic for.
But I mean, let's face it. If England were playing Afghanistan at Tiddlywinks, I would still be supporting Afghanistan. But it does come down to it with things like that. I mean, being a Hibs fan, Hearts have played games in Europe. Fortunately, they didn't win very many of them. So I am happy that the Scottish coefficient increases, but I didn't want any of the teams to win it. And I was quite happy for Rangers to go down to Man City, Manchester and lose. Quite happy for Celtic to go to Seville and lose. But I was happy enough for them to get most of the way there. Just didn't want to get them didn't want them to win because they'll just have that against you. They'll start singing songs about it and
We sing songs about Seville. Didn't win.
Martin, Martin, you pulled out Hearts going to Europe. We're not going down an ancient history route. Do you know what I mean? So let's just try and keep it relevant. Do you know?
aye, well, back when Hearts were in the top league, sometimes they did sort of get to that sort of stage.
I think it's only fair that we allow
the Jambos here to defend them.
It was a
I think it's only fair that Gavin's allowed to comment. Gavin.
Oh, I will.
Oh wait, he's preparing for his wedding.
Oh yeah. All he's wanted to do is marry her before she gets sober.
So we touched on Europe. James, I think you'd mentioned earlier on the week about some interesting kind of discussion talking about the Europe and looking at, you know, and players that are kind of capitalising on their talent in the game.
Yes, the Champions League returned this week, and we saw Mbappe and Haaland win their games and score a lot of goals in their games, whereas Barcelona and Juventus lost, and Messi and Ronaldo didn't have much of an impact. So there's been a debate kicking off that maybe the Messi-Ronaldo generation has passed in football and it has moved to the Haaland-Mbappe era. Is that talk premature, or is the new generation in? Martin?
It's one of the things we talked about the coach a couple of weeks ago, and nobody could complain if either anybody said Messi or Ronaldo was cool. What Messi and Ronaldo have done for football, and it's not just, usually with football players, you have 2-3 years where you're the best, and then you fall away again. So you look at De Bruyne. De Bruyne was at Chelsea, didn't really do much, managed to go away. Wolfsburg, I think it was, matured a bit, went to Man City. Then he was talked about as one of the best players. Okay, one of the best players in the world. But he wasn't one of the best players in the world from 17 to 33 or 36. Whereas you look at Messi, he came on the scene at Barcelona and was considered prodigal. It was the case he was going to be one of the best players on his debut. because what they saw beforehand. Ronaldo took him maybe a couple of years because Ronaldo was Sporting Lisbon, and I think he had one season Sporting Lisbon. Man United played against him, signed with Man United, and I didn't think he actually got to that sort of level until maybe 2 years in at Man United. But then once he was sort of at that level, he's been at a level. He's 36 now. Ken, he's been at the level of one of the best in the world from 20 to 36. I think it's extremely difficult to say Haaland, who's 20, who's played 3 seasons. 3 seasons he's played. And Mbappe, although Mbappe is out of the 4 of them, is the only World Cup winner. He's only played 5 seasons in football compared to the amount of years that Messi and Ronaldo play. What's everybody else's thoughts on it?
I don't think their era is finished. I think they've got still a few more years in them, each of them. But at the same time, their kind of Haaland and Mbappe era has also begun. Just like when Ronaldinho and Zinedine Zidane were still about, Ronaldo and Messi had kind of come into had brought their era into football. It's just kind of like a little bit of overlap. It's just a bit of an overlap, I think.
You've also got to consider what the players have done internationally, though. I mean, Ronaldo has won the Euros. Mbappe has won World Cup. Messi's done nothing really. And Haaland, I was actually surprised to read Haaland's English. He's born in England. Didn't move to Norway till he was 3. Plays for Norway. He's played 7 games for Norway. I mean, how you can consider he is now the era of being one of the best players in the world. He's played 7 games.
No.
Right. I think what we're seeing as well is we're coming on to a kind of a natural change, aren't we? You know, year on year, the quality of football gets better. You know, that's the nature of sport. You know, year on year, things improve. There's tweaks made, and you know, unless you're Celtic, things gradually get better year on year. What we're seeing as well is, you know,
done well for this year, is it not?
Exactly. That's my point. You've made me lose my train of thought. There was and what we're seeing is, you know, although they're not ancient, you can count all you want, James. We're almost coming up to 10. We're almost coming up to 10. You might get scared.
How many rows that be?
What we're finding is, although they're not ancient, Ronaldo and Messi, they're getting older. You're expecting a younger generation to come at the back of that.
33 and 36.
Yeah, they're getting older. You know, they're getting older. We're expecting a younger generation. Will it come quicker than we have seen in the past? As you said, Haaland's only 20. I think the talk's a bit premature, and you know, over the next couple of seasons, we'll see where we're looking at.
You look at a couple of things. I mean, James mentioned that Ronaldo was pretty. Didn't really do much. Messi didn't really do much in the Juventus and the Barcelona games, respectively. I watched the Juventus game, and Ronaldo was one of the only few players that were actually making runs. I didn't understand the way Juventus is set up. And player would have the ball, and usually you've got 2-3 options. A player making a run. Ronaldo would make a run every now and then. Everybody else is quite static, so it's extremely hard to put a player not being up to it along with a team not playing well. And I still think Ronaldo in the last minute, I still class that should have been a penalty. The chop that he done on the play away.
But I think the question should be, who would you want in your team? Even if you could only have one of them, who would you want?
Out of who? Oh, out of all the four of them?
Out of the 4. If you wanted to have...
At their best or this year?
Currently, if you're a manager just now and you're building the team, who do you want?
It's weird because you kind of have to group them in twos. I mean, Haaland and Ronaldo are both goal scorers, and Mbappe and Messi are more football players to a degree. I'd have Messi out of the 4 bad choice, and I think Ronaldo was the best player in the world doing it deserved, but I'd have Messi.
I would probably choose Mbappe because obviously he's a young player. He plays more ball than Haaland does. I think Haaland's just more of a kind of stay up front. If the ball comes to him, he goes and scores kind of person. And Mbappe, him being young and kind of willing to learn, I reckon a manager would be able to kind of train him to a better direction and stuff. Perhaps.
I'd say I'm gonna agree with Shahan, surprisingly. I would go for Mbappe and
Are
build
you
a team.
sure?
No, did you not hear it in my voice? I would go for Mbappe and if I had to build a team around him, I would choose him. Despite I think Holland's a better overall player, but I think if I'm right, Holland's already had I think it was a bad ankle injury. I think.
Yep.
So I'm a bit dubious about that compared. I don't think Mbappe's ever had a big injury. He's had a couple little niggly ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'd go for Mbappe because I think he's got that might have that bit more longevity because he's not had a major injury so soon.
You sound as convincing as Shane Duffy does defending. I would go for Haaland because football is about scoring goals, and he scores goals. Put him in any team, Norway, Dortmund, he scores, and he only needs one chance. And I think if you want to build a football team for the next 5-10 years, what a guy to build it around.
Yeah, I'd be taking Haaland as well. You know, I was reading there that he in 17 Bundesliga games he scored 17 goals. He's only 20 years old. That's a good grounding for him to kind of build on. Let's get some more goals behind him, and let's get him into the Rangers first team, and let's
Good luck with that one.
There's a few things. I mean, Ronaldo in his total career has played 1,083 games. Messi in his whole career has played 880. And Haaland's played 161. Mbappe, being a World Cup winner, has played 260. It's you look at some players, and yes, potential's a massive thing in football. Potential doesn't always get met, whether it's through just not getting there or injuries.
Are you talking from personal experience, Martin? Because we didn't want any confessions on here, you know.
If I was as good as if I knew what I knew now when I was 6, I'd be a great player. Unfortunately, I don't. So, but you look at last year, Ronaldo and Messi weren't even the best player in the world to me. Lewandowski was the one that sort of said that we most likely win the Blue D'Or. But you look at there's players like Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo. He would have been one of the best players ever, but got injured far too much. Didn't play enough games. There was player Man United had a player Luke Chadwick. And he was the next best thing and just didn't meet his potential. He maybe played 100 games, but he didn't meet his potential after that.
I do think that Haaland is that kind of person who's too much of a kind of party animal with his chainsaw out and cutting wood and things like that. I don't think he's got that much of a drive to become a best player in the world like Ronaldo did. Like Ronaldo still at this stage is one of the fittest people in the world. You know what I mean? Player in the world. So
get the party animal over.
I love how we went from party animal to cutting wood with a chainsaw. Sounds like a lit party.
I'm pretty sure he was drunk when he did it. So.
In Norway, that's seen as the place to be.
Who's it in America that cuts a strip of wood every time they
Portland Timbers. Yeah,
they do well over there.
But the next question, and I think this will prove where people think the generation is. You could either have Messi and Ronaldo in your team, or you can have Haaland and Mbappe in your team. Who do you pick?
Based on contracts alone, Haaland and Mbappe. You see Messi's contract? Couldn't afford anyone else.
I think you get more money through the shirt sponsor. They're always got a bigger following and stuff. I think I still have to go Messi or Ronaldo.
Mitchell turned into Bob there, given the company answer. Quite remarkable. They've all been represented tonight. But Mitchell, on footballing ability, not the accounting side, who do you want?
I think if two of them to build a team round, you'd have to go Messi and Ronaldo. You seen it in you see that, as Martin said, in the UV game, Ronaldo's still making the runs, still in outstanding shape and ability. Messi, you see him in their last two knockout games when they played PSG there and Bayern before. Messi is the one that makes things tick for Barca. It's just the squad around him isn't good enough anymore. He doesn't work as hard either, but you kind of give that up for what he can do.
I don't think he's ever worked too hard.
It's just talent, isn't it?
He's
just
always
pure
sort of
talent.
strode about to make players think, aye, that's fine. He's not doing anything new, and then burst into a space and score.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with both of them. I'm going to have to choose Ronaldo and Messi as well.
James, who would you go with?
I would go with Haaland and Mbappe because I'm not somebody who looks for the short term. Longevity, you would all get sacked in a couple of years because your team's ancient and massive contracts, whereas my team will be reaching its peak.
I reckon they both got another 3
something?
years at the top. I reckon they both got another. You look at Ibrahimovic, 38, he's still playing.
I'm looking at a 5-year vision.
Ronaldo's 36, he's got another 3 years in him. Messi's 33, definitely another 3 or 4 years in him.
I still think.
You know something?
Yep, Bruce.
Your vision and my vision doesn't align on many aspects. You know, political football. So because you said Haaland and Mbappe, I've got to go with Ronaldo and Messi. That's just how it works. I can't agree with you. So I'm going the opposite one.
That's fair enough.
Okay then.
The other thing I want to say about Ronaldo, because you look at Messi and throughout his whole career, he's kind of played the same position and done. I want to say about the same thing, but Ronaldo started off as a winger, setting up goals for the first however many years of his career, and then he's changed completely into a striker, a complete goal-scoring machine. He was never that at Man United his first couple of years. He's managed to sort of change into at Real Madrid. He played 292 games and scored 311 goals. That's huge.
And I think another thing about Ronaldo is that he's went and proven himself in different teams. Whereas I reckon if Messi goes to another team, he wouldn't be able to do it.
It's not just the teams though; it's the leagues. It's kind of the Italian league,
the
Spanish league, and English league. The top leagues, and obviously missed it the Bundesliga, but the top leagues in Europe.
He's still got a few years. He might end up there.
He'll be. It doesn't make money anywhere else. Actually, I've got to say.
So
America or something.
on that theory alone, Martin, what you're saying is that Shane Duffy might actually manage to turn into a decent defender.
That might take a miracle.
Possibly.
Was he right? Was he no?
He needs to find a league that suits his style of football. I'm thinking the third division in Scotland.
He would be a good player for a very defensive team, but any team requires a high line and at least, I don't know, 30 pace on FIFA, he'd be pretty good.
Martin,
Yes.
FIFA.
You know how you were saying about he doesn't actually need to make any more money? He can actually stop playing football right now and still make more money than a lot of players that are still playing football. It was a thing. It was on radio, and apparently with one of his posts on Instagram, he can make up to millions of pounds. Do you know what I mean? Like one post.
This gets back to last week we were talking about the social media side of football, and yes, he's huge. He could say you could spend. Rangers Celtic could spend £300-400 million on him to buy him, and they would make it back from shirt revenues.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Everybody across the world
would need 300-400 million first. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna lie. Our strong point isn't in finances.
Is this the old Rangers?
It's the same club, mate. So do you know?
But I do agree with your point though, because they said that Juventus didn't really have much of a kind of following on social media at all until he joined, and they've had like a massive revenue coming in from social media, and so does his Messi's.
Bruce, would you like to see Ronaldo and Messi on the back of a Rangers kit?
Yes. It's not going to happen, but you know,
one can only dream.
One can only dream.
Fair enough.
I'm sure you would take them at Celtic as well. It's a silly question, James.
Well, I would. They would look glorious in the green and white.
Well, Ronaldo did play for
You'd also
It's always been Lisbon.
you would have also maybe have been closer to 10 in a row this season.
Bingo.
Damn it.
Yeah. I don't know why I said bingo. I was just waiting for you to say 10 in a row the whole podcast. Because Rangers are doing well, you must mention Celtic.
Yes.
It's the mentality.
Does this mean we get to loosely link to our next conversation?
Yeah, well, somehow bingo and leading to modern technology doesn't seem to fit very well.
Well, you've been to the bingo hall. So you've got it all on your mobile. It's all electronic now. It's the advancements. You can do things from your house.
James seems like somebody that'd go to bingo.
Maybe a Tory, but
Bastard.
I'm not fulfilling that stereotype. But yes.
You have been to bingo though, James.
I have been to bingo, but I'm not a
That's me.
regular visitor with Mitchell. I may ask why we're still single.
To be fair, nobody else asks why you're still single.
I think it's rhetorical at this point.
I missed that. Sorry. Second time today. I do apologise.
Anyway, on to modern technology and how it's let us down in dating. No, sorry.
Yes. So Mitchell, why
Swiping the
does
wrong way.
Tinder not work for you?
Swiping the wrong way.
Anyway, on swiping and how you swipe. Earlier last week.
Yeah, Mitchell, off you go.
Last week, golfing authorities announced that they would be limiting the size of the length of drivers to 36 inches. Yes, I know how bad this topic is starting off. And it makes you wonder, they're limiting it because of how far golfers are able to now drive a ball off the tee. And the question is, will technology is there a point where the authorities have to go, we need to scale back and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, to protect what they already have?
I still think there's certain sports where you need to say, right, let's drug all the runners up, get them as fast as possible, see how quick the body can go. But there is, I mean, you look at golf and Rory McIlroy, and there's a couple of other boys that can just
like John Ram and that, yeah.
They can just hit a ball a lot further than can. And I think you've got to take it in the time of the times. Jack Nicklaus wasn't hitting a ball that far. You've got other players like that. Even Colin Montgomery or.
Well, you look at Tiger Woods early in his career compared to now. His physique is so much different. And
I was going to say, like a lot of like golfers nowadays of like training harder as well. They're becoming more of athletes rather than just pleasure players.
Yeah, John Daly was never an athlete. But, he could smack
an athlete now.
You're naming people that I don't know. I don't really watch golf. I just know that there's Tiger Woods. I know there's a guy called Tiger Woods, and I know there's a guy called Rory McIlroy.
We managed to stumble upon a subject that actually not about, so I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah, you look at even Sergio and players like that. They were good at hitting the ball at a distance, but they can't keep up with what some of the players need now. And I think it's difficult to say. We talked before about the greatest of all time. To keep that in line, you have to sort of keep the rules in line to a degree. You can't say somebody was the greatest of all time at driving a ball a distance and then change all the rules to it and then drive the ball further enough. You've got to have a level footing to consider who's the best.
A question.
At what point? Sorry, I was just going to say, at what point does technology though overcompensate for lack of talent? So,
that's my point.
James, you shared that article. James, you shared that article about the Nike trainers with the blades on the bottom of that, and they were worrying that it was going to, take over from what Usain Bolt was doing. Usain Bolt was raw talent. He trained, he put all that effort into getting that speed that he'd done. So to bring technology in that's going to...
But Usain Bolt was wearing the best trainers at the time.
You've got other boys racing.
Yeah, why should athletes today be denied the best technology at the time? Imagine golf. Imagine
jump on your point quickly,
the driver
James?
that Jack Nicklaus hit.
James, jump on your point about running quickly. Bruce, you mentioned Bolt there, and Bolt, pure talent, great running. You look at you go back, I can't remember the name of them, but you go back for a couple of decades to Olympics, and the sprinters were running on ash tracks.
Yes.
And ash,
absorbing so much of the power.
Yeah. So you'd lose maybe like I think it's like a meter, like a couple seconds of that.
Yeah.
So milliseconds in that case, but it's like, as you say, like, everything's evolved, and as Thing is right. What point do we become? Is it just pure talent? What point do we start going? Okay, you actually need talent to win this. You can't just use this.
But then
every
Bolt's not
athlete
going to
just
have.
now
Bolt's
could
not
use
going to
those trainers.
I was going to say Bolt doesn't have is not going to have any issues buying those trainers. He could probably set the fast track lap record of the world again. Do you know what I mean? Like, you do it 5 seconds or something. Do you know what I mean?
But should we constantly be reinventing? Should we constantly be reinventing technology to do one better than?
Would you want Formula One watching 1960s with these dangerous cars? And I saw earlier the late of last season how technology helped save Grosjean's life.
Yeah, exactly.
Technology has benefits as well as making it more competitive.
No, totally. But then
the only problem with Formula One is that you've got Mercedes who have more technology than other teams. But if in athletics everyone has the equal access to the best technology, they should be able to use that technology.
But then why can't that be done in Formula One as well then?
The only problem with Formula One is the fun bits is when they crash. And now they're stopping the crashes.
But then, like, see, if we stick to Formula One, like, and I don't know, a few decades ago, Williams was one of the best teams. They were winning everything, and now they can't win. They can't even get any points on the tables because they don't have enough investment in their cars. They don't have the best technology. Whereas Mercedes is investing like 500 million or I don't know the exact accounts, or whatever. Whereas Williams is only investing 5 million.
Unfortunately, sports come into that. It's when you take your son to. I'd say Sports Direct, but Foot Locker or some upmarket footwear place to buy boots, and the pair of football boots are 150 odd quid, and you go to Sports Direct and get it for 30 quid. It's a case of there's certain things where you can say, right, that's going to make my son play better, so I'll spend more money on it, and it's no. Football's probably a bad thing. So a pair of football boots didn't justify how good you are. But like running, if you're running in old tennis trainers as opposed to proper running shoes, if you're cycling on a mountain bike as opposed to a proper racer, it's where money comes into it, and it's a big problem for obviously parents. Speaking of somebody who has far too many children, who have to keep up with the trends.
Good Catholic household.
Yeah. Parents that are trying to keep up to make sure your children have got the best sort of possibility of succeeding in things. I remember I was watching a YouTube thing on baseball bats and stuff. $300 for a baseball bat. A stick does the same thing.
And do you plan on spending much money on baseball bats, Martin?
Well, no, the baseball bat behind my door doesn't cost anything.
But yeah, like, I think technology is always going to improve, like, and that's something nobody can stop. It's just where we regulate it. Like when you say that the golf clubs are now supposed to be 36 inches or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you mean the actual diameter of the actual
length
driver or the length? But then you've got.
You're an engineer.
Shahan, let's think
Have you got a measuring tape?
No. I'm going to say.
Open up the top drawer, get the measuring tape, take it past the 3 inches and up to 36 inches.
Hey,
you're not going to get a diameter head.
Well,
Martin, he's using your baseball bat as a golf club.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing. See if you've got a player who's like, I don't know, 7 foot. I don't know. I know there's not many players that are 7 foot. They're going to need a longer. Crouch. They're going to need like a longer club, aren't they?
Well,
but here,
to relate it, I don't know much about golf, but I'll relate it to field hockey because I know field hockey. in field hockey, you've got the top end length of stick you get is about 38 inches, regular is about 36 and a half. And the fact is, the reason you don't get longer is because when you wind up, if you've got a 36-inch length compared to a 38, it's only 2 inches different, but the velocity at the edge of that arc is going to be so much greater. And especially if a guy's 7 foot, he's going to have long limbs, so that reach is going to be even more. So he's going to be able to wind up.
So you saying that a guy that's 7 foot's got a longer one?
What Mitchell's also saying is that 2 inches makes all the difference. You know what I mean? But I think out of all the daft things that have been said in this, I think out of all the daft things that have been said in this podcast, Shahans is taking top spot at the moment.
36-inch head.
Right, so
I mean, it's normal. It's normal for tall people, isn't it?
I would say that the ergonomics sort of does come into it. I know I'm talking to 4 non-golfers, but there was a golfer recently who changed all his club lengths to the same length so he could use the same swing, as opposed to obviously your sand wedge up to your 3-iron are varying lengths progressively. But there's also a YouTube channel I watch about a golfer. And what he does is he uses a lot of the illegal clubs, and you can sort of golf has to have a line somewhere because there's so many, because of the way the science is now. There's so many illegal things. There's a golf club that you can put basically a bullet in, and you just hold it there, and then press a button, and you didn't have to swing it. It just hits the ball. There's a lock wedge. You look at me really weird when I say lock wedge. But there's a log wedge that's got that much spin in it that it takes a fair amount of cut off the ball. And even the types of ball that you can use.
Martin, that's the one, and when I'm playing it on the video games, that's the one that says LW in it.
Yes, lob wedge. That's the
that's
one.
The one.
Under sand wedge, above pitching wedge.
Don't know what it's used for, but I know it gets the ball off the A to B. So
that's what all
I was going to say, Mitchell, I was going to congratulate you, Mitchell, for actually finding a topic that Martin sounds intelligible on. So he inputs on football because he inputs on football because he supports Hibs, and apparently sometimes Hibs play football, and he inputs on the egg chasing. But he actually sounded quite intellectual there. It was actually quite good.
I would like to make a comment about a Rangers fan saying that another team didn't play football. Did you see the football that got used to Manchester? That was dire.
Did we get there?
He's won.
Did we get there?
The problem is that there's groups of fans that think football is different things. Football is winning games. Football's not winning games. The best football player that's ever played football has been Ronaldinho, and he was a magician with what he.
Right. So if we didn't win games, we'd be Hamilton.
No, you'd be.
Look how they're getting on. But we're winning
games.
But we're winning games. But we're winning games, and we're winning the league. So, aye.
Why has technology brought it back to football and Rangers?
Okay, let's.
Because for once it wasn't me that brought it back to football. I usually bring it back to football, it wasn't me this time.
Anyway, let's talk about it. So I think when it comes to technology, I think the question is there a point that associations and sports should start regulating it in fairness, and also at the same point, should they regulate it because of safety? Because I know with hockey, I've seen there's a couple hockey sticks that are banned because you can just move a ball far too quickly. It's just unsafe.
I think most sports you do have to regulate it just to keep a level playing field. If it makes sense. I think golf's an excellent example because there's illegal clubs for a certain reason, and you can just do too much with a golf ball with certain clubs. You have a basic type of club, and you can do with that. I think you've got to take into account over the course of 50 years, probably 70 years, where you look at things like the Olympics, where the professionals 70 years ago weren't the professionals. They were working during the day, and then they'd come and they'd do it as a hobby, and then they'd compete in the Olympics because of it. And you will get a progression in the world records sort of increasing through the years. But you shouldn't get a progression in world record going up just because of technology. It should be down to the ability of the human. You need to find a level somewhere and say, right, we're at a level now. We all run off of clay, and we all run with trainers that have a grip of this level. And go with that. I don't think it's way to go any further.
I think other than actual running, I think most other kind of athletic sports, anyways, are just based on their ability. Like shot put is just literally based on a person's strength. Do you know what I mean? Like discus throw, javelin throw, they're all based on the actual human ability.
Actually, the javelin flow, the javelin changes. Okay, the javelin's a different javelin 70 years ago than it is today. So the record holder 70 years ago is from throwing a certain type of javelin. I would like to see the world record holder now throw that javelin. Shot put's a good one. Shot put is a certain weight, can't read the weight. But
I think
what I think, you know, you should have regulation. It should ensure safety, and it should ensure the safety standards are met. It should ensure equity, so that, as Martin was saying, it's down to raw ability, talent, the amount of effort you're putting in training, and that should, you know, give you the outcome. But then, at what point do we end up with over-regulation? Because then that's
very conservative.
One thing I
James, you can go off a person, do you know?
I do agree that certain sports should be regulated.
Like you to start with.
Some sports should definitely be regulated. Formula One being one of them, because and in that, what I mean is like a maximum expenditure, because Mercedes can go and spend, I don't know, 100 million to 500 million on their cars, whereas Williams is only spending 50 million. I don't know, but I think this needs to be a kind of maximum expenditure, which they can't go above, because otherwise nobody else is ever going to be able to compete with the higher teams, ever. I don't think.
However, we have to watch what we wish for, because if we ended up in this perfect world, we would have nothing to talk about on this podcast.
Do you take that to football as well and say only every club has to spend the same amount of football? So you've got the same with Formula One. You've got the same thing with football, really.
I totally agree with that as well. But I think football players get crazy amount of money paid to them. I think there should be a general cap that the best football players can't get paid that, and there's nothing higher than that. Like that's my opinion, though. I just think that there's far too much money in sports that can use that can get used in other places.
I agree in principle.
Shahan, you're wearing the wrong colour. You should be wearing red to match your economics. That is socialist. Let the market decide.
I agree in principle, but the problem with doing that is then the people upstairs make all the money and the people downstairs make nothing. They
make Bob very sad.
Yes.
Anyway, to round off this technology, in technology sport, if we do regulate it to some point, considering its 25th year anniversary, let's talk about golf. If they keep golf drivers to a certain length, do we think, I'll start with James first, do you think we'll see more people do the Happy Gilmore off the tee?
I hope so, but I very much doubt it.
Shahan, do you think we'll see more Happy Gilmores if they standardise clubs?
What, just absolutely lay it up? A nice little run up and smash it across the
it's totally legal.
Yep, well, if it's legal, then I do see a lot of people doing it.
36-inch run up.
Apparently, Shahan
36-inch diameter run up. A full circle round, and then.
Martin, I'm guessing it'd be something you'd love to see.
Oh, that would be amazing. And I'm just waiting for the first guy to slip just as he gets the first hit. I would say within sport, it's the small margins that make a massive difference. So until you go to a par 5 where you wanted to get to a point where you wanted to lay it with a pitching wedge as opposed to a 9-iron, it's very unlikely. But
it was a yes or no question.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Bruce, what about you? Do you think we'll see more Happy Gilmore swings?
Highly doubt it, but if anyone listening to this podcast wishes to pay me a large amount of money, I'm quite happy to go and do it.
Here. Mitchell?
I would love. I think it would be something that definitely would happen. It'll be something that people will exploit until that gets regulated.
Are we going to go for a golfing outing and just everybody try a Happy Gilmore?
Go for it.
Can we not just do
every
that
team.
foot golf again?
Do you know, I prefer the foot golf.
I wasn't there.
Do you mind when Benjamin tried to do the Happy Gilmore for foot golf?
Yes.
You
And he
can't
wasn't
run up.
allowed to. I got
Isn't that
points
just
taken
running
off
up
of
and
me
taking
for
a
that.
kick?
Yeah, because in foot golf
Yes.
you're not allowed to take a run up. So he took
Well, well, you say that, Mitchell, but it was just in that Linlithgow one. See, if you got the Cumbernauld one, you're allowed to do whatever you want.
Anyway,
You're even allowed to
To be
wear studs.
fair, see in Cumbernauld,
allowed.
see in Cumbernauld in general. Yeah, you're allowed to do whatever you want.
well then.
not just relevant in football.
Other foot golf experiences are available nationwide.
Yeah.
Thank you for the legal input, Bruce.
Got to keep this all above board, you know.
Yes. As Martin
that's
Downs.
that's the only thing that's going to keep us above board.
but Mitchell, try a
Martin, I've
smoother.
never realised you drink with your pinky up.
Only when I'm the best one in the conversation.
So, Mitchell, try a smoother transition than bingo and modern technology.
So I think going back to topic 2, we talked about Messi and Ronaldo. Messi's contract's up in the summer. Do we think he will move club? And if so, where will he go? I shall start with James again.
Yes, he will move. Where does he move to? Hope, Parkhead. To win 10 in a row next season, according to Super Scoreboard. But no, where does he move to? I don't know. I'd like Messi and Ronaldo to join up in the MLS and just for the banters to see how they play together.
They're the sort of players that could actually, they're not too similar in play, they could play in the same team.
Yeah.
It's okay, but Martin, where do you think they should go if you think Messi will move?
Where he should go and where I'd like him to go are two different places. There's a lot of talks about him going to Man City. I don't think he'll go to Germany. I don't think he'll go to. I'd like to see him in the English League. Unfortunately, that might end up being Man City. And yes, he will leave. Although, if you look at a couple of documentaries on what Barcelona's done for Messi, it'd be difficult for him to leave. The amount of time he spent there, and obviously the amount of things that they've done for him. But
Like
I've given him growth hormones and everything else. But I think yes, he will leave. I do think it'll be Man City, although I'd like him to go Man United instead.
Of course you. Shahan?
I just don't think he's enjoying playing football at Barcelona now. I think he's at that stage, so I think he will definitely leave. And I think he will end up in Man City. I don't have a preference as to where he ends up, but I think he will end up in Man City.
Bruce?
Yeah, I was really going to try and put the cat among the pigeons, but that's not happening. So I think he's going to, look at, the draw to Man City at the moment is pretty big. There's all managers there. They're playing pretty good football. However, if he wants to go Ibrox, that would be okay. We're setting a pretty good precedent. He could slot in quite nicely. Life would be great, and he could really just upset Celtic, which would be nice.
Surely be better at Parkhead because he could fly to Celtic. He could fly from Glasgow to Spain and back in the same day. No one would bat an eyelid.
No.
Well, there is that. However, if Neil Lennon got his way and Shane Duffy came back next season, I don't think anybody would want to go to Celtic. So, Ibrox, the doors of Ibrox are always open. He's an easy target. Sorry, that's what happens when you're an easy target. People pick on you.
Mitchell, same question to you.
Oh, I think it's set in stone. He's going to move. He hates Barcelona. He's seen it. He's seen it over the last couple transfer windows, players just being let go, the disrespect to Suarez.
Massive.
I think as we've all said, Man City seems like the obvious option because we all know Pep can't do it in Europe without Messi.
No.
But I think the other one would be, if it wasn't for COVID, I think PSG would have been a huge shout. But because of COVID, I think it's just decimated like the funds of like the likes of Madrid and Barca, who would go in for Mbappe, which would be the obvious, which would allow Messi to come in and be the replacement.
But with a big team, and this is what I think we need to take into account. You did mention that COVID has decimated the finances of these big teams. I think it was £1 billion have been lost in revenues from the top 20 clubs. Mm-hmm. Would you really pay Messi's wages for 2 or 3 years, even if that?
As I said, for Man City, I think they would. If Pep doesn't win the Champions League this season, I think they would, because it's kind of becoming a narrative of Pep can't win in Europe unless he's got Messi. So that's the only time he's won it, when he was at Barca.
I think you've got to take into account the amount of revenue that Messi brings in. You sign Messi. I mean, I remember when David Beckham signed for LA Galaxy, and I started seeing LA Galaxy strips walking about Scotland. Now that's happening in Scotland. It's happening in England. It's happening all about the world. Messi signs for any club, doesn't matter who it is. They will then have strip sales go through the roof. I would like to see them, though. It's always easy for the best players to go to the best teams and win something. I'd love to see one of the best players in the world not go to one of the best teams. Maybe go to a team a little bit lower down, and then go win something with that team and make a difference in the team.
He's not going to go to Hibs.
He's going to Hibs. He's going to Hibs.
This is where I say
Champions League. That's it.
This is why I say there should be a salary cap in football, because lower teams will never be able to afford players like Messi and Ronaldo ever.
The socialists has come back. The socialists have reappeared.
Those players make more than they cost.
However, Rangers win the league. Rangers are successful in Europe. The Champions League is the next step. Come on, Leo. In you come. Welcome.
Aye, play alongside Morelos.
Sit on the bench. Sit on the bench.
No, sorry. Are you selling Morelos to pay for him? Is that what it is?
Well, possibly. Come here, sit on the bench. I will introduce you to Nathan Patterson.
At the end of the day, he wants to play with Jackson Irvine, and that's the end of it.
Nobody wants to play with Jackson Irvine.
Martin does. Best signing of the transfer window.
Great player.
Just not the best, but great player.
Yes. Well, bingo. Modern technology.
Bingo defeat.
I wish.
I really hope we're calling this episode bingo, by the way.
Might have to make a bingo t-shirt with James's face on it.
Maybe just have to do that.
Yes, 9 in a row. Bingo.
So that I don't feel victimized.
But
can't reach 10,
that
bingo.
sounds like a good idea, Bruce.
Yeah. Maybe people will take part in the competition if it's my face.
Sorry. Bruce, I can't believe you didn't even get Georgia to enter the competition.
She's fed up of my face in the house as it is. Never mind wearing it.
I think that was a step too far, that.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Sports Hut podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed our bingo, our conversation about technology, about Ronaldo, Messi, Haaland, Mbappe, and a party at Ibrox. Not the title one, the one where they broke the COVID rules. So I hope that
Haaland welcome.
The Sports Hut podcast.